For this homework, which you should, again, really should try on your own because it's a good model for one of the options you're going to have on the final exam. It's really just an extended version of what we did for the first midterm in terms of conditional probability. And then instead of using the conditional probability formulation, we're just using Bayes. The only addition is the part where you learn from experience, where you get new updated information. So here's the guidance. So there are three branches, yes. This one, H1, H2, H3 for each of your three possibilities. The probability for the first is 0.6, 0.4 for the second, and 0 for the third, but you should draw them anyway. Since it's 0 here, it's going to cancel out, but it's just mapping your possibilities. And then this part right here says, given H1, what is E? So that's right here. Given H1, what is E? That's 0.9%. And given H2, what is E? That's 0.2. Okay? When you calculate each of these, remember the mnemonic is the first times the flip divided by the same plus the opposite, not H1, which in this case would just be H2. You don't need H3 because it's just going to cancel out. And then the flip of that, E given not H1, which is just H2. And these are the numbers you should get. If you did it on your own, you got it correct, good for you. All of this was from the first midterm. So thus far, getting this far should be no problem. These are the numbers that should be obvious. H2 given E will just be, you should calculate anyway, but if you think about it, since it's the opposite of H1, not H1, it should be the complement, which is exactly what it turns out to be, 0.13. 100 minus 87% is 13%. Okay, some new evidence comes in, and you get the following claims. So F given H1 and E is 99% now, and F given H2 and E is just that, right? So to calculate, so your new tree will just basically extend it for one more branch. You got E and F, and then you got the same thing, E and now F. And then H3 is still 0, so you got it, but you don't need it. You just draw it anyway just to label it. And then the posterior probabilities now will be, remember, it's H1, it's the first, so it's H1 given E. So remember, the key idea for learning from experience is the old posterior becomes the new prior. These are your posteriors. Now they're old because relative to the new information, they're going to become your new priors. So you're going to stick it in here. It's going to be your first, that, H1 given E, which would be 0.87, times the flip, F given H1 and E, right? And then divided by the same plus the opposite, H2 given E, and P probably F given H2 and E. Okay, and you just read that off. It'll be 0.87 times these new numbers, 0.99, plus the same, divided by the same plus the opposite, which was 0.13 that you calculated here, times 0.3, which is the new thing there. Okay, so again, the idea is you take what you calculated here and you input it back into the new Bayes equation. This is the only part that's new, and you guys should be able to do that. If you can do this with confidence, it ends up being pretty simple. That same mnemonic holds first, flip, but with this slight amendment that the first now becomes the old posterior. This is your new prior, and it corresponds to what you just calculated up here. That's why it's learning from experience. You take what you just learned and you input it into the new updated calculation. Yeah? And these are the numbers you should get. You can think about what this means. This is not a totally hypothetical example. For those who did investigative reporting of the sort that's no longer talked about in media for the most part, they found that there was significant influence. And almost all the intelligence community claims that Russia significantly influenced the community. I don't know what the heck is going on with the denial of this stuff. It's just like fiction is becoming fact. But old style reporting used to be that, or what's called muckraking, used to be that the media was the so-called, was it fourth estate, fifth estate, something like that. Anyway, it's one of the checks and balances that's supposed to keep track of things. And instead, media nowadays is largely corporate influence. And what Trump means when he says fake media is ironic because his stuff ends up being faker than so-called fake media. The legitimate claim that much of media is influence bias is legitimate, but you have to get into media studies to see this. One of the classic exposés of this is still, to this day, Chomsky and forget the guy's name, manufacturing consent, Herman, Chomsky and Herman's manufacturing consent, about the ways in which propaganda, their propaganda model, the ways in which media very often propagates propaganda. Um, but the irony is, in today's day and age, we're so far off the mark. There's so much fakery that fake has become real. So peering through those various layers upon layers becomes a real task. If any of you are interested, you can just Google this stuff and try to do more research. If you're interested even further than that, you can just email me. We can talk about it. But anyway, this is the nuts and bolts of the calculation. Good practice for the final.